tell you some things about this poet before you settle in to listen, hopefully with your whole ear. I see my job as the master of the scavenger hunt. You, the listener, are straining to hear what this poet cares for, what he knows about you and your life, how he thinks similarly or differently from you. I'm going to litter the path with a few breadcrumbs so you can find him upon first listen. Because often, when you're hearing something for the first time, it's hard to take it in. This is a poet who likes honey, literal and figurative. He's drawn to that sweetness. But he knows to get there, you dig this grave. You have to drive all the way across Kansas, through heat and wind and dust. These poems do not offer quick and easy romantic fusion with the speaker of the poem and the object he addresses. We feel this intellect working to see things from their proper distance, not simply painted with the emotion of the moment. In Walking Home on a Friday, early November, and many of you have seen him walking home on Fridays in early November, he says it this way: all the color in the world, this world cannot collect them, cannot enter the silence of their blank sky, just as I never can, never quite, will always remain this arm's length away. You are probably familiar with the long tradition of the poet being a singer and therefore having an affinity with birds. This poet likes birds too. In fact, his pages are beautifully scattered with them, and I want to show you this. You'll have to buy the book so that you yourself can see it, but see, they're really scattered with them in wonderful ways.
Okay, and it's great to see all of you out too, and so many familiar faces. I'm used to reading to strangers, but I don't often get to read for my friends, so it's nice to see so many of you that I know. I'm going to read a selection, I think, from the latter half of this book, Bird Silence, before moving on to some new poems, and then I may return to a poem or two from the book at the end. And if we have time, at the end we'll have a little question and answer session if people have questions, so you can feel free to sort of store those up as we're going along, and we can talk about some of those things at the end, given time. First poem I'll read is called Liturgy. Actually, these first two poems have that word in it. It's a word I find myself coming back to again and again. Certain little touchstones I probably use too much, and that might be one of them. Séjour, that's another one. Anybody's had me for class knows I love the word séjour, so you'll probably hear that word in a few poems as well. All right, Liturgy. You came to me slowly, as light through a jar. You came as ice comes to the surface of a lake. For 40 days and 40 nights, we talked with our mouths full. For an age, we were lost in the world of our eyes. At the fork in the road, we sat down to wait. At the hour of confession, we fell down into sleep. In the trees, we found nothing but the darkness of trees. In the hill cleft, the birth we could not quite remember. We abandoned our hearts for the cold fact of each other. We abandoned our hearts when we crossed into shadow, a field of lit matches. When we crossed into silence, the uneasy silence of birds. And that's kind of the poem that gives the book its name. This is called Across Some Smoke-Filled Room. Tell me about breath, its curl and cry, its brief charged argument with air. asleep or waking, how it breaks into lines the liturgy of hours. Say how, in our wide surprise, we take a world into our mouths, its shape and taste, as if apprenticing for that long caesura, collapsing like a lung between our bodies and desire. Who was it? Some philosopher of dark apartments who found inside the cave of his mouth, in the damp blue black of it, the sad Promethean urge to hold an afterthought of fire on his tongue. Today, when the young priest came to me and placed the body on my tongue, I tasted the smoke he smoked an hour ago. It's late. This is how I talk to myself. We haven't even met. And the distance, all that air between us, darkens itself with the odd, barely believable shapes we tether to a name. Or I am waking up just now, next to you, as I have for the last 10 years, and you're snoring a little repulsively, and I can touch you, just your hair, fanning my pillow, and I don't need you to show me anything.